Welcome back, everybody, to the Loud House Revamped review series, where I go over the Loud House Revamped chapter by chapter. And today I'm going to just be doing the next 10 chapters by myself. Once in a while, when specific franchises are brought in or brought up in this fanfiction, I'll try to get a co-host for these franchises. Unfortunately, most of the co-hosts screamed in horror once I brought this fanfiction up and started having panic attacks. This tells me a lot because I think that J.D. does not understand how villains and heroes work at all, thus making my potential co-host panic and then run away. So without further ado, let's get into Chapter 31. The price of admission is the 49th episode of the first season and revolves around Lincoln seeing a movie that his parents told him to not watch. This plot, to my knowledge, has been done to death in every kid show as well. At least in the original episode there is a little change to how it is done here, but the episode is still relatively the same. In this version, however, nothing much has changed, except for J.D. adding his self-insert, Free, Laney, Woody, and the Eds into the mix. Also, I gotta say that this has a unique title card with film in the background, representing somewhat of a horror aspect to the episode/chapter. I think it is a pretty good indicator of what it's gonna be about. Let's start up the chapter, shall we? The chapter begins with a trailer of The Harvester, the movie that Lincoln wants to watch. The trailer basically has The Harvester be the typical slasher flick, with someone losing their sanity due to reason insert here and killing people. The end of the trailer suddenly has J.D. laughing in a diabolical voice, saying, "The Harvester," along with the narrator. He is really having fun with that, isn't he? It is revealed that Lincoln is showing the trailer to Rita via his phone. J.D., Free, the Eds, and Woody are shown to be sitting on the floor also there. Rita tells Lincoln that there's no way he's going to see that movie. Lincoln groans, but Rita tells him that he will get paranoid and have nightmares. Rita also adds that Lincoln is just like his father. She then walks away with Lynn Sr. coming out from beneath the sofa with a teddy bear. Lynn Sr. then says what Rita said was an exaggeration, but tells Lincoln that the Harvester trailer must never be played in the house again. Lynn Sr. walks away, fidgeting the teddy bear in fear. Okay, both of the parents are within reason to forbid Lincoln from watching The Harvester because they know how he gets, especially Rita. J.D., however, in his head, thinks that Lynn Sr. is a coward. No, Lynn Sr. is being reasonable because he's scared of certain things, including horror movies. Anyway, the chapter moves on to Ed, saying he loves slasher films, while Double D says that those kind of movies can cause paranoia and fear. Lincoln then tries to plead to Rita that he isn't a baby anymore, but Rita says that no is her final answer. Reasonable. Lincoln then looks disappointed because of being forbidden from watching The Harvester. Rita, out of nowhere, praises J.D. for the diabolical voice and laughter. J.D. thanks Rita, and J.D. explains that he does that to add a scary effect to the movie. Oh, I wonder what he would do if he watched It from 1990 or something. He'd probably ruin the movie altogether because that movie doesn't need any scaring. Rita and Eddie praise J.D. again, setting up the next scene of the chapter at the Royal Woods Cinema. He doesn't need to be praised twice. We get it. He's awesome for some reason. It then cuts to inside the Royal Woods Cinema with J.D. and his friends, including Lincoln, Laney, and Clyde. Clyde talks about being fine with not watching The Harvester, saying it is too scary, and is instead excited for a parody of Barney's only movie called Blarney. Nearly everyone agrees except for Ed, who says that slasher movies are great. An usher then comes up to the group carrying around some free Blarney hats. Clyde says that he will take 2 of them, but Lincoln says that 1 of them is fine. Clyde grabs one of the Blarney hats and puts it on, while the usher still continues carrying them. Lincoln complains to Clyde that it is not fair because his parents think that he can't handle a scary movie. 3 of Lincoln's friends pass the group of the others and walk into the theater playing The Harvester. Lincoln gets jealous that one of his friends get to see it and explains that he cried when a bird was flying in the gym. This is when Lincoln comes up with a plan to just go to the Harvester and not tell his parents about it, adding that the parents won't find out. J.D. tells Lincoln that it's a bad idea, with Clyde saying this. You know Barney has a song about that, Lincoln. Okay. Clyde then proceeds to sing this. Every time you lie, a leprechaun will cry. Then 2 little girls join up as backup singers because why not? A fib to mom and dad. Well, that's twice as bad. Okay, Clyde isn't a loser per se, but he's a little old for this Barney ripoff, isn't he? Lincoln decides right then and there that he will go right to the Harvester. Clyde tells the little girls to follow him into the Barney movie, while Lincoln goes to the Harvester with the door shutting behind him. J.D. proclaims that he and the rest of the group will wait for Lincoln and Clyde to get out, with everyone else agreeing. They pull out some books and music to pass the time. 97 minutes later, all the people that watched The Harvester except Lincoln come out about how good the movie was. J.D. says that the movie must be done, and Varee says, thank goodness. Obviously the movie is done. You didn't have to say it. We can already tell. Lincoln's friends and 2 sisters see Lincoln slink out of the theater, scared out of his mind. Clyde gets the brilliant idea to touch Lincoln's shoulder, which makes him scream, please don't take my gallbladder! Clyde says that he guesses that Lincoln doesn't have to tell him how the movie was, while Varee and Laney try to comfort him. Lincoln says that he had no idea that a man in overalls could be scary. Double D and Eddie have their own reactions to this, which are relief and horror respectively. Lily, the 10-year-old baby, says that the movie must have scared Lincoln. Lincoln says that it did, thus Lincoln's plan backfires. Clyde says that he would say I told you so, but he talks about another Barney song, which goes like this. When someone is wrong, don't make a note. The truest friends should never ever gloat. The little girls then appear out of nowhere and join in with Clyde to sing the rest of the song, before Lincoln says that he gets it. The gang then gets back to the Loud House, with Clyde asking if Lincoln is going to be alright. Lincoln tries to say something about his parents finding out, but can't say it due to the Harvester scaring him. Laney and Eddie reassure Lincoln that they're here for him, and that he's safe. Clyde tells Lincoln that he will be on the walkie-talkie 24/7, but not on a specific channel, because that is for Barney fans, and goes home. The gang along with Lincoln step into the house, as Rita and Lynn Sr. are putting up fall decorations. Rita then asks them about how the movie was. Lincoln gets frantic and realizes they were talking about the Barney movie. He lies, saying that he definitely watched it. Lynn Sr. says that's terrific and asks Lincoln to go get the ceramic pumpkins because of the fall decorations. Lincoln says that he can do that and asks where they are. Lynn Sr. says that they are in the basement, which makes Lincoln panic. Lynn Sr. then emphasizes that the pumpkins are in the far back corner where Lana's snake went to die. J.D. interrupts to say, oh boy. Okay, that one is stupid. That catchphrase is stupid. Lincoln nervously gulps and opens the door to the basement, trying to turn the light on, revealing that the bulb is dead. He says, seriously? And the gang follow him down the stairs, hearing a voice. The deep voice says that it will get Lincoln, making him scream, who said that? Lincoln then notices that he has stepped on a talking doll, which repeats the deep voice about getting him. But the voice changes to a happy tone, talking about getting another cup of tea. Varee adds that it must be one of Lola's dolls, and Lincoln tells himself to get a grip. Lily takes the doll, and J.D. ignites his lightsaber to provide some light. Lincoln thanks J.D., and J.D. says no problem. The gang gets to the bottom, seeing a giant cobweb. J.D. touches the cobweb after saying it is big, and strums it like it is a harp. He then says, wow, it is so tight that you can play magic on it like a harp. J.D. also plays a melodic tune on it, and when he stops, everyone claps. Varee and Double D compliment J.D., with J.D. bragging about how good he is at playing a cobweb like a harp. This is not the time to brag, dude. Okay, this is not the time to brag. Lincoln then falls into a few things that sets a hockey stick coming at him, making him scream the harvester, and gets out of the way. J.D. tells Lincoln to calm down and explains it is Lynn's hockey stick, holding it. Lincoln says, oh, just as Lynn Sr. calls the gang from upstairs saying that he remembers the ceramic pumpkins aren't in the basement. When the gang comes back upstairs, Lynn Sr. says that the pumpkins are in the attic. Lincoln gets frightened by the mention of the attic, and Lynn Sr. emphasizes that the pumpkins are in the far back corner with no windows or light. J.D. and Fareed sigh in annoyance at the situation, and Lincoln gulps, getting scared. As the gang prepares to enter the attic, they notice Lola walking by. Lincoln asks Lola if she wants to look for decorations, but Lola refuses, saying it is creepy. Lily interrupts the story to give Lola her doll, and Lola gasps, screaming the doll's name. Lola says that she has been looking for it everywhere, and thanks Lily. Lily says, anytime, sis. Lincoln then asks Lucy if she wants to go in the attic, and adds she might find a bat. Lucy knows that they will, but none of them are vampires, so she passes on going to the attic. J.D. then says, well, here we go, as the gang go into the attic. Lincoln gets his shirt caught on a loose nail, screaming that the harvester got him. J.D. ignites his lightsaber and sees what Lincoln got caught on. Lincoln's shirt comes off, leading Lincoln to get hit by Luann's whoopee cushions. Lincoln screams about the harvester getting his sister's colons, and Luann tells him to knock it off, not before making a stupid pun, laughing. J.D., Fareed, the Eds, and Woody laugh at her stupid pun and say how good it really is. I beg to differ. Luann says thanks to Eddie as Lincoln puts his shirt back on. Rita tells the gang from downstairs that the pumpkins are in the garage. Lincoln gulps again, with the gang sneaking towards the garage. A mysterious voice then says this, I got hearts, kidneys, and ears. J.D. ignites his lightsaber and sees that it is Mr. Grouse, the elderly neighbor, tending to his garden. In the original episode, Lincoln just screamed and ran away. Here, J.D. asks about Mr. Grouse tending to his garden, and Mr. Grouse says that the crops are vegetables. Fareed compliments Mr. Grouse on how good the vegetables are, and Mr. Grouse tells her thank you. The gang then opens the garage to discover that the ceramic pumpkins are not there. J.D. says, no decorations. Dude, it is obvious that they are not in there. The gang heads back inside the house, and Lincoln tells Lynn Sr. that the ceramic pumpkins are not in the garage. Lynn Sr. remembers that the decorations are under the porch, but Lincoln gulps once more. Lynn Sr. then says that he'll get the ceramic pumpkins tomorrow and apologizes for sending the gang on a wild goose chase. J.D. says it is alright, while Lincoln sighs a breath of relief. Later, everyone is going to bed and turning off the lights. Lincoln makes his way from the bathroom to his bedroom and talks to the viewers about getting to bed before his parents send him to any more spooky places. He gets to his bedroom and turns off the light, talking about how he's doing better because he hasn't talked about the harvester in 10 minutes, while struggling to finish the sentence. J.D. gives Lincoln a nightlight, saying that it used to be his. J.D. adds whenever he got scared, he would turn it on to help him not be scared anymore. Lincoln thanks J.D. while plugging in the nightlight and turning it on. However, it burns out, making Lincoln annoyed. J.D. then says that the replacement bulbs are at his mansion. Fareed adds an "oh man" like she's Swiper from Dora the Explorer. Anyway, Lincoln slides into bed with the door open and the hallway light turned on. But someone turns the hallway light off. Lincoln gets up to turn the hallway light on, but J.D. stops Lincoln, warning him to not do it. Good, that light flickering scene was annoying. Fareed comes up with the idea to see if one of Lincoln's sisters will let him stay with him. Lincoln responds with, good idea. You know you could have just had him come up with it himself, right? Whatever. J.D., Fareed, and Lincoln go into Lola and Lana's room, and Lincoln wakes Lola up by making her sleeping mask snap onto her eyes. She growls in response and opens her eyes. Lincoln asks Lola if she wants to watch some of her pageant videos. Lola gets delighted but then gets immediately suspicious, asking why he would want to do that. Lincoln says that he loves beauty pageants, but Lola immediately tells Lincoln to cut the crap and give her the real reason. Lincoln admits that he saw a scary movie and that he's afraid to be alone. You got J.D and Varee, what's your excuse? J.D then says that Lincoln watched The Harvester, causing Lola to question why he would watch it. Varee tells Lola it is because Lincoln thought he could handle it, but it scared him badly. Lola says it is a shame and to go sleep with their mom and dad because that is what she does. Lincoln says that isn't an option, but Lola tells him neither is her beauty sleep, going back to sleep snoring. J.D, Varee, and Lincoln go to Lana's side of the room, and J.D comments on Lana being one with the jungle because of Lana's bed being filled with different animals. Lincoln, being dumb, tries to ask Lana something, but the animals wake up growling at him, leading him to say, "Never mind." J.D roars like a lion, scaring the animals and waking Lana, who sees him. Wouldn't this wake up the family too? He tells Lana that Lincoln has to ask her a question, but Lana compliments him on the lion roar. This leads to J.D saying this stupid line. Like I said with Lori, predatory animals are my speciality. J.D, you are not Obi-Wan Kenobi from Star Wars, okay? Stop trying to be someone from Star Wars. Lincoln tells Lana he saw a scary movie and is afraid to be alone, with Varee adding that the movie is The Harvester. Lana says that the movie is scary and that she would let Lincoln sleep in her room, but Ed is with her. Okay, are the Ed's having a sleepover? If they are, that house must be overstuffed by now, even with the expansions. The chapter then shows Ed near Lana's bed being awake. J.D apologizes for causing noise, and Ed says it is okay. Next, J.D, Varee, and Lincoln go to Lori's room, finding Lori texting in her bed. Lincoln gets Lori's attention by asking if she is too busy to give girl advice, making Lori gasp, eagerly pulling Lincoln under the covers while J.D and Varee sit on the floor. 36 minutes later, Lincoln is on the 63rd question, but Lori hears her phone beeping, brings it out, and gasps. She then tells Lincoln that the questions are over because she has to talk to Bobby. Lori then adds that Bobby started his delivery job. J.D tells Lori to tell Bobby that he, Varee, and Lincoln wish him the best. Lori says that she will, also guessing that Lincoln watched The Harvester. J.D says that was correct, and Lincoln asks how she knew. Lori responds with intuition, adding that movies like The Harvester aren't real and that she now has to talk to Bobby. Lori then shoves Lincoln out of her covers just to immediately show that Bobby was spelling Lori's name incorrectly on a pizza. It immediately then slides right out of the box onto the ground, making Bobby say that the pizza is coming out of his paycheck. Later, back in Lincoln's room, Lincoln plays basketball against a groggy Lynn, who just gets one hoop. Lincoln cheers, but notices that Lynn is asleep. He says, "Dang it," and J.D says that he will take Lynn back to her room. J.D picks her up and uses super speed to do so. Wait a minute, he has super speed now? Great. More powers that he does not need. Then the chapter shows Lincoln escorting Lenny to the kitchen. Lenny, obviously confused, says that she doesn't get it. Lincoln tells Lenny it is daylight savings time. Lenny yawns and says that she loves savings. Lincoln asks Lenny what she wants for breakfast, looking in the fridge. Suddenly, Lincoln hears Lenny going out of the door with her backpack. Lincoln screams out for her name, and Lenny says that she is late for school, also adding a goodbye. Lincoln tries to stop her, but notices a cooler in the silhouette dragging something, making him believe it is the Harvester. This terrifies Lincoln, closing the door, revealing it is just Mr. Grouse with fishing gear. Mr. Grouse gets annoyed and leaves. Lincoln goes back to his room, picking up his radio. He tries to call Clyde, but Clyde is asleep singing about Barney. Wow, that kid is obsessed with that ripoff, isn't he? Lincoln gets annoyed that Clyde isn't there 24/7, but thinks of who else could be awake at this hour. A little while later, there's a knock on the door causing J.D. and Faree to see who it is. Lincoln answers the door, revealing it is Bobby. Lincoln greets Bobby and congratulates him on the new job, offering to split the pizza with him as a celebration. Bobby declines and says that he has more houses to stop by, before dropping another pizza on the floor accidentally. Back in his room, Lincoln goes insane due to lack of sleep, and makes pillow friends to have conversation with to distract himself, while J.D. and Faree have earmuffs when they're sleeping. Lincoln rambles on and on about onions on the pizza until he hears a banging and tries to get his pillow friends to help. Unfortunately, they can't do anything, so when the banging is heard again, he gasps and shakes J.D. awake. J.D. wonders what the hell is going on and asks Lincoln. J.D. and Lincoln go downstairs, grab a fireplace brush to defend themselves, and find someone in the kitchen who says this: "I'm going to slice you right down the middle." The person is clearly not referencing Lincoln, but Lincoln gasps and runs away, which turns out to be Lynn Sr. holding a snack. J.D., instead of pulling out his lightsaber, decides to use a flashlight because that has less noise. He shines the flashlight on him to discover he is holding a carrot cake for the school fundraiser. J.D. gets after Lynn Sr. for trying to eat the cake, but Lynn Sr. says he has the munchies. J.D. threatens to get his wife, making Lynn Sr. panic. He puts the carrot cake back and runs back to the master bedroom. J.D. smiles proudly and heads back to Lincoln's room. Okay, that was funny. Meanwhile, Lincoln goes up to his room, locks the door with a chair, and hides under his covers. He trembles under the covers with immense fear, trying to say that the harvester isn't real until sunrise. That is pretty typical for a kid to do, especially when they are in a darkened house. J.D. arrives at the door, discovering it is blocked, saying, "Boy, he must be scared." "No shit, Sherlock." J.D. demonstrates that he can turn into a new form, a puddle of water, and slips under the door to reappear back to normal. Wow, Faree must have taught you that, huh? Anyway, Lincoln screams, but J.D. tells Lincoln that it's just him. Lincoln apologizes and asks if that was the harvester downstairs while stuttering. J.D. says that was Lynn Sr. downstairs trying to eat some carrot cake that was for the school fundraiser. Lincoln is relieved and says that at least the night is over. In the kitchen, Lynn Sr. is working on the pumpkins mentioned earlier while Rita checks the fridge, finding the carrot cake. In the original episode, Rita gets confused on where the carrot cake is and asks Lynn Sr. where it is, but Lynn Sr. says that he doesn't know where it is, implying he ate the whole carrot cake. J.D., Faree, Laney, Lincoln, and Lily come in with J.D. saying hello to Lynn Sr. and Rita. Rita responds with "Morning, guys," but Lynn Sr. says hi to Lincoln, not saying to his two daughters in the room as well as J.D. and Faree, or anything. Rita talks straight to Lincoln and tells them that they can see the harvester, along with Lynn Sr. backing her up on this. Rita also adds that they bought free tickets and that her and Lynn Sr. are going with him. Faree says, "Oh no," and Lincoln becomes extremely afraid of the harvester again. What happens next in the original is that the three Loud family members go to the cinema, but in this version, that is not the case. Rita asks Lincoln about what's the matter, and Lincoln says he can't do it. J.D. kind of snitches on Lincoln here and tells the parents that Lincoln has something to tell them. Lincoln confesses that he saw the movie yesterday against their wishes, saying that they were right about him not being ready and was terrified all night. J.D., Laney, and Lily give their own points of view, and Rita says to Lincoln that she's not happy that he watched the movie without permission, but it sounds like he had been punished enough already. Lincoln swears he won't do it again, as Lynn Sr. asks J.D. on how he didn't see the harvester. He says that he is not much of a slasher horror film guy, and says that the gang waited outside the theater for Lincoln. Reasonable. J.D. then asks Lincoln about how the harvester ended, and it is the typical cliche ending for a slasher movie. Faree adds that it is a gruesome way to die, with J.D. saying no kidding. He then apologizes for telling Lynn Sr. and Rita any spoilers, but Lynn Sr. says it is alright. Laney and Lily say they are glad they didn't watch the movie and the chapter ends. J.D. in his own notes says he wanted to do an original ending for the chapter, which is okay. He also adds that the chapter takes place before his version of Roughing It. That happens a lot in this fanfiction, especially in the later chapters. You'll see what I mean. So what do I think about this chapter? This was a very mediocre chapter, and it shows with the extra characters being put in. The original episode only had Lincoln deal with the fear and paranoia by himself, which I think would have been a better idea for JD's version. Unfortunately, JD doesn't do much to help Lincoln except when he uses his lightsaber and a flashlight to illuminate the rooms he is in. Also, that one moment where JD plays a cobweb like a harp wasn't needed. We didn't need JD to do that, because he had a friend that was scared and terrified. That was disrespectful to Lincoln himself, I feel. However, the gags with Mr. Grouse were funny and added some character development to him. The gag with Lynn Sr. running back to his bedroom was hilarious too. That was very funny. And even in a bad fan fiction like this one, there were good moments. But cherish these moments, because they will become very rare in the future. And I mean spottily rare. Let's move on to the next chapter, which involves a certain goth kid. Welcome to another JD original where the plot revolves around Lucy the goth kid. This chapter is very much full of references to Courage the Cowardly Dog on Cartoon Network back in the day. And if you don't understand what that show is, that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to go through the premise of what that show is. So this one is going to be a very bumpy ride as we start the chapter. The chapter begins on a dark and stormy night at the Loud House. We go inside to see that JD, Lincoln, and Lily are playing video games while Varee, Jessie, and Lainey are reading books. JD talks about the weather being rough, and Lincoln agrees, along with Lily, who says that the rain is pouring. All of a sudden, all the characters in the living room hear a scream coming from Lucy's room. The 6 characters rush up to Lucy's room and find a strange sight. They find Lucy with strange-looking features such as blood-red eyes, scaly skin, and hair that is deep orange. She then speaks in a demonic voice saying, "Won't you join me?" JD says that the voice isn't Lucy talking. No shit, Sherlock. She's obviously possessed by something. Who did you think it was? Pennywise the dancing clown? You know what, that would actually be more funny than anything. Lucy's head spins around and falls off, making the 6 characters scream. Lucy, still in her demonic voice, talks about having one of the characters giving her a hand so that the head could be reattached. Instead, it switches to another sibling meeting at midnight in the Loud House, with the Louds, Jessie, JD, and Varee in Lori's room. Okay, that makes sense. They are all necessary to be there at this point. Lori tells everyone in the room that something is seriously wrong with Lucy. JD says that he has seen this before, and explains that they have a case of demonic possession on her hands. Low moaning then comes from Lucy's room as Rita gets confused on what JD just said. Varee asks Rita if she had seen The Exorcist. Rita says that she has, and that it was scary. JD explains that they have to exorcise the demon out of Lucy, and Luna asks how they're going to do it. JD says that he knows an exercise incantation, and for Varee, Lincoln, and Lainey to follow him while the rest stand by, should the demon attack the first group. Lori says right, and Jessie tells the first group to know what they're doing. JD reassures Jessie to not worry and that Lucy will be fine. The first group go into Lucy's room, approaching the possessed goth girl in her bed. Before I go on, the next few things I describe will sound familiar because they are ripped straight from a Courage episode, Demon on the Mattress. It is line by line from one of the later scenes of the episode, so it can be frustrating for fans of that show. Basically, the demon refuses to get the hell out of Lucy. And the demon basically mocks JD here, which I do not blame it for at this point. So the demon mocks JD and asks what it is going to do. The demon mocks JD and asks what he is going to do, and he throws holy water on the possessed Lucy, burning the demon. Okay, that's irregular, but okay. Then coming out of nowhere, a black lightning bolt hits the possessed Lucy and demon, causing the demon to get expelled and Lucy to be put into a tornado of darkness. Why a new power choosing segment? That is not necessary at all. We already have a demon in the picture. We don't need Lucy getting powers or anything. Lainey and JD obviously see that another power choosing segment is happening, and then the demon reveals itself to be Pazuzu from The Exorcist in the form of the priest that exorcised him long ago. Okay, that is just lazy writing right there. That is lazy writing. Why is Pazuzu the main bad guy here? Sure, The Exorcist was referenced, but that doesn't mean that Pazuzu could have been your guy. Wait a minute, doesn't he have, other victims to bother? Like the ones from the movie franchise? Never mind, I guess, because JD can't resist putting him in here for some reason. JD gets shot that Pazuzu is right, and for some reason wants revenge on the Loud House. Because, why not? JD says that there is no way in hell that will be happening, and fires a stream of blue fire at the demon, causing him pain. JD also says this: "The power of Christ compels you," while holding a cross. As Pazuzu is getting the beating of his lifetime, Lucy gets up and sees the fight. She then says this: "So that was the freak that was possessing me. I feel weird. Gasp. Have I been given powers too?" Yup, unfortunately. Lucy then holds her hand out and fires a bolt of black lightning at Pazuzu, damaging him badly. Lainey says to Lucy that she has dark powers, which Lucy responds that she does. She then feels a pain in her back as a pair of black angel wings sprout out. Lucy sees them, knowing she can fly now. What the fuck? How many pairs of wings are we gonna need? Angel wings. How many pairs of angel wings do we need? This is just lazy writing at this point. This causes Lucy to fly at Pazuzu, punching him and then shooting more dark lightning at the demon, destroying its head. JD says, "Here we go," and does some incantations, causing Pazuzu to turn into a ball of red light that explodes, sending him back to the underworld. The storm then dissipates as Lucy walks up to JD, Lainey, Lily, and Varee. Lucy thanks them for saving her, and JD saying it was their pleasure, and acknowledges that Lucy got dark powers. Lucy says that she feels great, as JD looks up dark powers in his legend book. JD tells Lucy that she's been blessed by the Norse goddess of the night, Newt, in Norse mythology. He explains that she bestows her power of darkness to anyone worthy, and adds that Newt can only give these powers to someone possessed by a demonic force. No, that can't be fucking true. Lucy says it is unusual and that she was possessed by a demon. Lainey tells Lucy that the demon was Pazuzu from The Exorcist. Lucy responds that it is weird but a blessing. "Young lady, you got possessed by a demon. That is not a good experience." Varee tells Lucy that she looks like a true angel of darkness with her wings like JD. Lucy says her thanks to Varee, and later the first group explains to everyone else about the situation who are shocked and then go to sleep early in the morning. Thus the chapter ends. In his notes, JD explains that he wanted to give Lucy the powers of darkness. Reasonable, okay? That's reasonable. But did the demonic possession even have to happen? No, it didn't. So what did I think about this chapter? It was not really that good, the chapter was. It was not that good. Because JD not only ripped off one of the scenes from a Courage episode, he put in Pazuzu for no reason whatsoever. And it could have been something else, like a spirit or something, like maybe have a demonic spirit or something, I don't know. Just don't have Pazuzu in there. Or have a ghost or something possess her. The power choosing segment was a little necessary, but it makes the fanfiction too predictable. In my opinion, I would scrap the chapter and just do something else. And this is what would happen if Pazuzu realized how J.D. Knudson is so bad at being a hero. The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you.
You cannot defeat me, kid. Let's see how you like being possessed for once.
Oh,
you're disgusting, Knudson. You're disgusting.
What is he talking about, J.D.? Never mind that, my friends. Let's get 'em!
Oh, if you knew the things I knew. person's mind, you would be disgusted.
Now that he's destroyed, the world is a better place. Something's off here. One Flew Over the Loud House is the 50th episode of the first season and revolves around the common cold infecting everyone in the Loud House, so the uninfected characters have to get to Clyde's house. This is another plot gone over in other kids shows where one or multiple characters get sick. An example of this would be Suds from SpongeBob, where instead Patrick tries to help SpongeBob. However, SpongeBob was an adult and Lincoln is a child, giving Lincoln a little leeway. That goes away when you realize he's 11 years old at this point, and should know better, but I digress. Without further ado, let's get into chapter 33. The chapter begins with J.D., Faree, and Eddie walking over to the Loud House. They then knock on the door, but no one is answering, so instead of going home, the three characters break and enter into their friend's house. Great, another crime in this fanfiction that we need. J.D., Faree, and Eddie see that everything is quiet, and J.D. calls out for anyone. Faree asks where everyone is, but J.D. says that he doesn't know because it is not that quiet. Eddie adds that the van is still in the driveway and says that maybe they are sleeping in. J.D. says that there is a maybe or maybe not. Oh, do you think so? Anyway, the three intruders walk upstairs to Lincoln's room and knock on his door. Lincoln says to come in and the three intruders open the door. J.D. says hi to Lincoln, with Faree adding that it is quiet around the Loud House. Lincoln realizes that he must be the first one up and notices that the time is 10 a.m. This makes Lincoln a little concerned about it being quiet that late, that he doesn't know, adding how quiet when he, J.D., and Faree broke in. Lincoln does not react to this with anger or annoyance, but with, "That's weird." Okay, if a friend broke into my house, I would call the cops and cut contact with that friend. Lincoln opens the door as he puts his clothes on, and the three intruders along with Lincoln notice that the hallway is wrecked, with J.D. saying that it didn't look like that before. Lincoln tries calling out for someone, but instead hears a strange noise coming from Lana and Lola's room. Lincoln calls out for Lola and Lana, but Lola comes out of the room looking like a snot-ridden zombie. J.D. then says this: "What's wrong with you, Lola? She is obviously sick. Can't you see the snot on her face?" Lincoln laughs nervously and walks back into Lenny. He tries to tell Lenny that Lola is sick, but realizes that Lenny is also sick, with flies around her. In the original episode, Lenny was not sick until the end of the episode. This causes Faree and Lincoln to scream, and causes them to see a sick Lynn Jr. as well. Lincoln tries to back away and tries to open Lisa's bedroom door. Lisa opens the door, pulling the uninfected characters in as they scream, with the other sisters, Ronnie Ann and Jessie, holding the rest of the uninfected, causing Lincoln to be confused. J.D. then says in a droning tone, "Head towards the light." Dude, Lincoln is not unconscious. Lainey asks if they're okay, and Luna says that they should check the new arrivals just in case. Lori, who isn't immediately sick in the episode, takes the new arrivals' temperature and says they're good, adding to let them go. The first group does so, and after J.D. and Eddie say hi, Lincoln demands to know what the hell is going on. Faree adds that everyone looks like a bunch of zombies out there. Lisa says that everyone out there has been infected with the flu, with suspenseful music playing. J.D. panics about the flu because he probably just realized how much of a bad idea it was to waltz into his friend's house like he owned the place. Lincoln then explains to J.D. that in a crowded house like the Loud House, something like the flu spreads like the plague, adding that it is basically a zombie apocalypse. Eddie panics as Lisa says that the first sighting was in Lenny and Lori's room. This starts an old-time real flashback that shows how the flu spreads like the plague in the Loud House with a slight change. Instead of Lori catching the flu first, Lenny catches it first. When the flashback ends, J.D. says that the flu experience is bad, adding that he hasn't been sick before. Bullshit. You've been sick before. Own up to it. Eddie and Varee say the same thing as Lisa goes over who the survivors are, with the group being shown all together. Lincoln, seeing Lucy, panics, thinks she's been infected, but Lucy tells him she always looks like that. Lincoln asks about Lenny being infected, but she says that she's fine and stretches. Lisa then tells the other survivors they are going to have to initiate escape protocol ASAP. Wouldn't it make sense to deal with the flu instead? Anyway, Lincoln says he is on it and calls Clyde with his walkie-talkie. He tells Clyde that the Loud House has a level 4 outbreak, making Clyde spit out his cereal. Clyde asks Lincoln if Lori made it, and Lori confirms that she is okay. In the original episode, Lori was already infected, making Clyde grieve. Back to the chapter, and once again Clyde acts like a robot, but J.D. snaps his fingers, bringing Clyde back to reality. Clyde thanks J.D. and says that he will have everything ready, also asking about the number of survivors. Lincoln says 11, but hearing Luann sneeze, he changes the number to 10. Luann says a stupid pun before turning sick, groaning. In the original episode, the Loud siblings that are uninfected would then throw Luann into a toy cart and escort her out. Here, J.D. chants an incantation, immediately curing Luann. Luann thanks J.D., with J.D. saying it is no problem, with Lily adding that she would love to learn magic like that. Don't you have enough magic? Varee replaces Lenny as the reasonable one and says they should probably not run away from the problem. Luna, Lainey, and Jessie, however, say it is too late. Bullshit! Just keep distance from the infected and you'll be mostly fine. Ronnie Ann says that she's right behind the survivors, while Lincoln tells everyone to move. Lisa tells everyone to wait and brings out some water blasters, filling them with some type of mystery substance. She demonstrates how the concoction will slow down the infected by spraying Lincoln, who tastes it, revealing it to be chicken soup. Lisa says it is chicken soup and hands a blaster to him. However, J.D. starts loading a blaster full of tranquilizer darts as Jessie asks what's in them. The overpowered Mary Sue says this: codeine. It's a narcotic. It will make them tired. But this is only a small dose, so it should be okay. What? What the fuck is wrong with you, J.D.? The chicken soup was fine. You know what? Let's move on. He then gives Jessie a blaster and says that they have only 10 shots, so they have to make it count. The chicken soup makes sense, and even Eddie fills water balloons with orange juice that has extra pulp. Your uninfected friends have more common sense than you do. Luann then makes another bad pun involving orange juice, making Eddie laugh. The remaining 10 get suited up and say their own lines of being ready. Lincoln then looks around and gives the signal, letting the other survivors move into the hallway. He tells everyone to look sharp, and that the infected could be anywhere, with J.D. saying he is on the alert. The chapter now reminds me of Doom because of how much they have to be on the defensive. The survivors move onward until Luna tells them to stop because of Luann's unicycle rolling out of her own room and onto the floor. This causes Lincoln to spot something, saying, "Luna, 3 o'clock. The infected Lenny is then seen coming towards them, and Luna shoots chicken soup into her mouth, causing her to fall over. Lincoln then spots another infected sibling and telling Lisa to watch out. The infected Lola then approaches in her car, causing Lisa to shoot chicken soup in the infected Lola's mouth, causing her to crash. Lincoln then notices another infected person and tells Lori. This causes Lori to see an infected Lynn Jr. coming straight at her, and she shoots chicken soup into Lynn Jr.'s mouth. J.D. praises Lori for the shot, but Lainey warns the other survivors that Luna is being surrounded by a sick Lynn Jr. and Lola. Luna panics, but J.D. and Jessie shoot darts at the two that are infected, making them knocked out. Luna then thanks J.D. and Jessie, with both of them saying that she's welcome. Lincoln loudly proclaims that they have to evacuate, causing all the survivors to go down the stairs. J.D., Laney, and Lincoln say that they are almost there, but once Lincoln opens the door, the survivors discover that the flu has been transmitted to the pets. Eddie, however, fires an orange juice water balloon at the pets, splattering on them on impact, making the pets fall asleep. The 10 survivors make it to the sidewalk, and J.D. uses another incantation to quarantine the Loud House in a giant dome, similar to the Simpsons movie, but it's not spread across the town. J.D. says that should hold, and that he and the rest of the survivors should go to Clyde's house. Laney says good thinking. No, that was not a good idea. Like, maybe stay in the house and take care of the sick, or stay away from them at least. Yeah. This is dumb. In the original episode, all of the Louds get sick, causing Clyde to be the only one to help them. Honestly, I like the original ending better. The scene changes to Clyde's house, where Clyde is glad that everyone got out of there, and thought he lost them all. That kid really thought that the flu would kill them, huh? J.D. says that it turned from a visit into a rescue mission. Fareed adds that they should have stayed behind and watched over them. But J.D. says that no one wanted to get sick, especially with the flu. Okay, reasonable, to a point, but maybe you shouldn't have broken into the Loud House, dumbass. Eddie says a stupid thing about the Loud House not being able to get shots, and Lori tells him he is right, because of a fear of needles. I understand being afraid of needles, but your fear shouldn't prevent you from letting the kids get their shots. Even Rita isn't afraid of needles, so what's wrong here? Fareed talks about the parents being opposites of each other, especially with horror movies and needles. Lana says it is no fun and asks about when they could go back home. Lisa tells her about 2 to 3 days, as Ronnie Ann, Jessie, and Luann are relieved they are not sick. Fast forward to 3 days later, early in the morning, J.D. is woken up by the telephone ringing and answers. It turns out to be Lynn Sr., who says that everyone at home is feeling better. J.D. tells Lynn Sr. the other survivors stay protected, just in case. Cut to the next scene, and J.D. puts down the dome, making it vanish. J.D. says it looks safe and sneaks up with the other survivors to the house. They open the door and find out that everyone is okay, with Lynn Sr. saying that the recently uninfected are okay. J.D. gets suspicious about the message being a ruse, but Rita reassures him that is not the case. After J.D. sensing no lies, the Loud family and their friends head to the kitchen for breakfast, ending the chapter. What did I think about this chapter? Well, the chapter started out okay, but like a chapter into it, Chapter 33 got worse than the original episode. The trespassing, the random blaster with tranquilizer darts, and falsely imprisoning people that are supposed to be his friends. Fareed being somewhat of a reasonable person in this chapter, but still going around with her boyfriend despite that. She should dump him at this point, but I know that's not going to happen in this fanfic. Maybe in like an alternate version of this, maybe. The only positive thing that this chapter has is me being reminded of Doom, that's it. I like the original ending because it told the audience that you can't escape being sick, even when you never have gotten sick. In the new ending, this chapter tells you that you could outrun a disease, which you can't. It is inevitable that you get sick. Also, the chapter switched characters that weren't sick with the characters that were. That really confused me, as I couldn't remember which characters were which, but maybe in the next chapter it won't be so confusing. This chapter is a little more unique because of the Eds reminiscing about their adventures in Peach Creek. I'm going to summarize this chapter quickly so you guys don't get bored. Basically, the Eds go over 12 of their episodes in detail, with occasional dialogue from other characters. So instead of plagiarizing one episode's plot, J.D. does 12 of them in one chapter. Yeah, that's frustrating, but Woody's there for some reason. The Cankers are mentioned in this chapter too, because of the thing that happened in chapter 23. And J.D. also lists the episodes at the end so the reader can tell. That is basically chapter 34, just a pile of nothing happening. Which I suppose is better than what J.D. Knudson did in the last chapter. Chapter 35 is a sequel to an infamous episode called One of the Boys. It revolves around Lincoln wanting 10 brothers instead of 10 sisters, and Lisa gives him a watch to go to an alternate dimension where that is the case. I'll give a brief summary of this episode so as to not waste more time. Basically, Lincoln goes to this dimension because his sisters are being nags, but there is a twist. After 48 hours, he'll be stuck in the alternate dimension forever, but Lincoln dismisses this. As soon as he gets to the alternate dimension though, Lincoln starts to love it and then he hates it because they're being bigger boys, I guess, than he is. And then after he gets the watch back, Lincoln goes back to his home dimension, supposedly. He discovers that he's a girl now, and then she screams, and her brothers apologize for causing the ruckus. Lincoln screams again, waking up, revealing that the entire episode was a dream. There, I summarized it much faster than the script has me summarizing it. You're not missing much. Let's get to the actual plot of this chapter. This gets us up to speed and leads us into the chapter. The chapter begins at the Loud House with J.D., Lincoln, Varee, Jessie, and Lily watching cartoons in the living room while Lainey reads a book. J.D., Varee, Lincoln, Jessie, and Lily laugh at a funny moment from one of the Roadrunner cartoons, but then a whooshing sound is heard. This causes all 6 characters to look up, seeing a strange light appear on the ceiling. Varee asks what the hell it is, and the strange light turns into a portal, with a gender-swapped version of Lincoln landing on the rug in front of the TV. J.D. and Lincoln react with surprise as the girl asks where she is. J.D. says that she's in the Loud House, if that wasn't obvious enough. The gender-swapped version of Lincoln sees her male counterpart and screams that he looks like her. This causes Eddie and the girls to go downstairs to see what is going on. Eddie wonders what the commotion is about as Lori asks who the new girl is, with Lola adding about why she looks like Lincoln. The gender-swapped version of Lincoln introduces herself as Linka Loud. Okay, that's a reasonable name. J.D. says it is a pleasure to meet her and introduces himself. Varee and Eddie do the same thing, with Eddie talking about the other 2 Eds when they are not there. Linka responds by saying it is a pleasure to meet them all, and adds that the girls look like her brothers. Everyone in the living room except Linka are shocked to hear this. J.D. then guesses that Linka is from a flipped gender universe. Linka says that she guesses so. The Loud sisters then ask about their counterparts after introducing themselves to Linka. She goes over each of the counterparts and their one character trait. After that, Lincoln introduces himself as the only son of the Loud kids. He then guesses that Linka and him are similar. Linka confirms this and goes over who she is, her best friend Claudia, and her own hobbies, which are the same as Lincoln's. Jessie then says that Linka and Lincoln have things in common, along with introducing herself, saying she is from another dimension too. Linka says that it is an interesting fact, and J.D. then asks why she is in the Loud House's living room. Linka explains that her brothers were having a fight over a baseball card, and Varee and Lainey ask why. Linka claims that it started with the male versions of Lori and Lenny fighting over a baseball card that is worth $50,000. Damn, that's kind of a reasonable thing to fight over, if it's that much money. Lola is shocked at how much the baseball card is worth. Well, J.D. says yeah, like he has experience with that topic. Lynn Jr. says that she only plays sports now. Linka then starts crying and says that the fight escalated into something worse than erupting volcano, causing her family to throw her into the Loud House dimension. Lainey comforts her, while Lori asks about Linka's family having sister fight protocol too. J.D. then makes up DEFCON 0, calling it Jonestown's Massacre, because of no defensive readiness and everything being destroyed. J.D., you do know what happened at Jonestown, right? That is not really a good example of everything being destroyed. I would say like Castle Siege or something similar to that, or something similar. That is not a good look for you. at all. Lisa, however, says it is technically that DEFCON 0 is not a DEFCON level, but a correct way to put it. I beg to differ. Faree says that everyone here has to help Linka, but Jessie says that getting her back home is impossible. No, it is not. Ask Lisa to make a portal back to her dimension, and this chapter will be over. But no, Faree agrees with Jessie and assures Linka that she will get the help she needs. Linka sniffles, saying, You will? J.D replies saying, Sure, that is what friends are for. Linka comes over and hugs J.D. She then gives her thanks, and J.D says that she's welcome. God, this reminds me of Sonic Shoe all over again. Lynn Sr. and Rita come in through the door, and J.D immediately talks about the interesting development their daughters and he found. The trio of J.D, Faree, and Linka explain everything to the two parents, leading to Lynn Sr. and Rita being shocked. Most likely because their budget has increased again. Lynn Sr. and Rita say that the situation is horrible, but Linka says that she's happier in the Loud House dimension than in her home dimension. J.D, however, says, Let's see what's going on, watch! He then chants an incantation that lets him, his friends, and their parents see into the gender swap dimension. They then see Lynn Sr. and Rita's counterparts crying as all the children, except Leon and Larry, Lily and Lainey's counterparts, are taken away by CPS. Linka gets shocked at this, while Lainey says that is rough. J.D. says that the situation before them is probably what would have happened if the Sister Fight protocol was never gotten rid of. J.D. adds that he and Faree seem to not be in this dimension. Thank God. Lola and Lisa agree with J.D.'s statement, and Lynn Sr. says, And this version of you are fighting over a baseball card? J.D. responds that the baseball card was rare and valued very high. Rita talks about how much money that card was worth, and Faree says that Lori and Lenny are different from their counterparts, adding that there were two cards, each valuing $50,000, which combined is $100,000. Wow, you could give that to a charity. Lainey exclaims that it is a lot of money, but adds that she is glad that the protocol is done with. Lily says, Me too. Everyone agrees, and J.D. closes the window. Lucy asks J.D. if the counterparts can hear or see them, but J.D. reassures her that they can't. Linka is then adopted into the Loud family in the main Loud House Revamped dimension, with Lincoln sharing his room with her, ending the chapter. That is not a good idea. There is a reason why girls and boys have separate rooms, James. Especially when puberty comes around. Besides that disturbing ending, what did I think about this chapter? The chapter has a few problems in my opinion. The Jonestown massacre thing seems to be not malicious, but more out of touch with what it actually was, and disrespectful. Linka not being able to go home rubbed me the wrong way, because it reminds me of Jessie not being able to go home either. I sense a pattern here and it is very disturbing. Even Jimmy Neutron and Timmy Turner went home to their dimensions after each of the Timmy Power Hours. At least those specials didn't give off a disturbing pattern of that way. Another J.D. original. Wow, we are on a roll today, aren't we? This chapter is a strange one, and a memorable one, but not for the right reasons. You know why? Because somehow the 2003 incarnation of the Teen Titans is involved in this. Yeah, the same show that had a cliffhanger as the finale. Despite that, we also have Loud House in the mix. So without further ado, let's begin the chapter. The chapter doesn't begin at the Loud House, but in another dimension, specifically the 2003 incarnation of the Teen Titans. The Teen Titans are described fighting their main nemesis Slade, aka Deadstroke, and having a hard time doing so. Robin tells the iconic villain that his terror is over, but Slade tells him it is only the beginning. Starfire punches Slade and burns his back with her lasers, causing him to scream. Robin, Beast Boy, Cyborg, and surprisingly Terra combine their abilities to destroy Slade. Then, out of fucking nowhere, Starfire is hit by a green bolt of lightning and a vortex opens up, sucking her, Raven, and Tara into it, with the portal disappearing. Robin calls out for them after they're gone, and not during, because of poor writing. Beast Boy asks where they have gone, and Cyborg says that the vortex led to another dimension, adding that maybe they can find out which dimension it is. Back in the Loud House Revamped dimension, J.D, Vary, the Eds, and Woody are over at the Loud House as a thunderstorm is going on while it is raining a lot. J.D, you're behind the storm, aren't you? J.D and Vary complain about the rain, but Lainey notices lightning bolts coming out of one spot. The chapter notes that it is totally unheard of, but if that is happening, you might want to take cover. J.D, Lori, and Double D says that it is strange. J.D suddenly senses something and tells everyone to duck. However, before Linka and Lincoln can do so, they get struck by lightning, which should put them in the hospital. But no, instead they are completely fine. J.D asks if the both of them are okay. Linka says she's fine, but Lincoln says he feels strange. Lainey, without any prompting, brings up the fact that there's no tornado and adds that whenever there is a tornado, one of them gets powers. Some of the siblings take their sweet time to explain their powers, which is not needed at all in this segment. Not needed. JD then asks Lincoln and Linka to see if they could do anything, and Lincoln agrees to this. The two lookalikes hold out their hands like it is Dragon Ball Z and fire a bolt of lightning at two chairs that are reduced to splinters. This impresses Ed and Eddie, along with everyone else. JD tells the two lookalikes that they have lightning powers. Lincoln and Linka say that they do, and Lincoln asks how it is possible. Lainey says that the lightning strike gave them their powers, while JD brings out his stupid Legends book again. Jesus fucking Christ, this is going to be bad. He then says that the Iroquois god of thunder, Heron, granted them the power of lightning because of a hole in the fabric of space and time, opening up during a thunderstorm. JD also adds that they will gain winged flight, super strength, and the ability to travel through any electrical current. According to the book, whoever gets struck by lightning from the other side gains that type of power as well. Lincoln says it is awesome, while Linka says no kidding in a confused tone. Okay, that has to be a grammatical error or something, because that is confusing as hell. Luann makes a crappy joke about her brother and his counterpart getting powers. JD and Eddie laugh at this because of course they do. Vary asks JD on where the hole came from, and JD says that they'll have to figure it out. Dude, for all I know, the thunderstorm could still be going on. Stay inside. This is a PSA. Stay inside. The gang goes outside to go to the spot where the hole appears to see an amazing sight. Turns out it is a wormhole that is still quite active. JD describes it to be an extremely long tunnel that could lead from one dimension to another. He also says that the wormhole looks like a white hole, while Lisa says that is a good identifier. Everyone, especially JD, says how amazing it looks when he hears screaming coming from the wormhole. Jessie sees something coming through, warning JD. He squints his eyes to see three figures coming through and says that he sees them. These figures come closer, falling from the clouds, and JD recognizes them as Starfire, Raven, and Tara. As the wormhole closes up, JD tells Lori and Vary to follow him. The three of them spread their wings, flying up and catching them. Don't they already fly though? Lori says that they should be brought back to the house, and JD agrees. The gang takes them back to the house and lies them on the floor instead of the couch. Why though? There's a perfectly good couch there. The three superheroines wake up and JD asks if they're okay. Starfire says that they are, as Raven asks where they are. JD tells them they're in the Loud residence in Michigan. Tara gets confused on why they're in Michigan, and Starfire says she doesn't know, because of course she's an alien and I could excuse that. Vary explains that a wormhole took them from their dimension to the Loud House Revamped dimension. Tara gasps and says that she remembers that all three of them got sucked through the wormhole after Starfire got hit by green lightning. Lori gets confused about the green lightning, and J.D. suspiciously says that he doesn't know how that happened. Raven and Starfire introduce themselves and talk about where they come from, with J.D. adding that he has heard of certain details. Not surprising because he's J.D. Knudson, of course. Raven and Lucy bond over darkness and magic, with Raven thanking her. Tara then introduces herself and says that she has geokinesis or earth powers. J.D. says that he's heard of that, and Tara also adds she is the lone survivor of a kingdom long gone. J.D. says he is sorry to hear that, but Tara tells him it is okay. I am sure that she still has trauma from that day. J.D. and Fareed then introduce themselves and tell the three superheroines which powers they have. Everyone else then does the same, and the superheroines give the responses. J.D. then asks the three superheroines what they were doing before being forced here. The three superheroines then talk about what happened at the beginning of the chapter, and J.D., Lincoln, and Fareed give their own statements. Starfire then gets a pain in her back, sprouting green angel wings. She can fly already! She doesn't even need them! Everyone gasps, and J.D. says that those wings are an effect of the lightning of Huron. Bullshit. Meanwhile, back in the 2003 Teen Titans dimension, Cyborg finds out where the three missing superheroes went and built in a dimensional transporter into each of their communicators. He warns that they are a one-time use, so they will be stuck in the other dimension forever. Robin says that is a chance he is willing to take. What? God, this is more confusing than the prequels. How about no? Can you figure out another way, Cyborg? I think that getting stuck there is a bad option. You'll see why. However, 3 characters from the show and 1 from Superman the Animated Series appear. They say they want to help, especially Volcana, who wants to redeem herself. Robin even asks why Volcana is there, and Argent says that she wants to be a hero. Cyborg tells Volcana she made the right choice, and Robin says let's go. You know what? Here, they are sort of in character. A dimensional portal is then opened up, and the team goes in, leaving their city defenseless and into JD's grasp. Back in the living room in the Loud House, everyone is talking when the dimensional portal opens up. JD says, now what? Oh, boo-hoo, you're so annoyed. Let me get the world's smilest violin for you. Anyway, the rest of the Teen Titans and their friends come through, making JD happy. JD, put them back, please. Starfire is relieved to see Robin hugging him. Robin is relieved to see that Starfire is okay, and tells her she is good with wings. This leads to both Starfire and Robin kissing. Tara and Beast Boy are glad to see each other and hug. Raven is relieved to see the rest of the group here, as well as the rest of the Teen Titans. Starfire gets suspicious and asks why Volcana is even there. Argent tells her the same thing that she said earlier back in the Teen Titans dimension. Raven says that's good, and later in the living room, they have a nice chat and dinner. Lola gets taught by Volcana some more fire powers, and the Teen Titans now live in the Loud House. Man, the Louds had to be screaming inside. JD then uses his magic to make the Loud House bigger, ending the chapter. Oh my fucking god. What do I think about this chapter? This crossover with the 2003 incarnation of the Teen Titans is unnecessary because it is not only beloved, it is one of the best superhero cartoons from the 2000s. The power choosing segment of Lincoln and Linka's is not very good because they basically get shocked and boom, they get lightning powers. Starfire gaining angel wings has no use to be there because she can already fly, JD. Also, the Volcano redemption comes out of nowhere because of her history. Due to the research I did, I can see why JD wants to do it, but it needs to be well written. The one-way dimensional portal thing was kind of stupid because Cyborg could have figured out another way. He could have made that dimensional portal thing a round trip and get the 3 superheroines back with the Teen Titans. Thus, JD won't have to use magic on a Loud House that's getting really crowded to make it bigger. But no, they're stuck there now apparently. Jump City is now defenseless, and the Teen Titans have let the city possibly get taken over by their enemies. J.D. didn't really think of the consequences, did he? I suppose that new superheroes will fill the void left, and J.D. has dimensional travel powers we don't know of yet. So yeah, not a great chapter, and terrible implications. Chapter 37, Fury of the Earth, is just like Chapter 21, but this time it revolves around Lin Jr. getting revenge. Strangely, this wasn't from JD's mind, but someone else called JFM Studios. But why? I don't know. Let's read a description of this chapter. The description for this chapter says that the chapter takes place 2 days later after Lin Jr.'s rival/enemy, Betsy Davis, broke her leg. Okay, so if Lin Jr. isn't going to get revenge, I guess her siblings and friends will? Great. More flashbacks to Chapter 21. Ugh, that chapter was horrible. The chapter begins with J.D., Farid, Eddie, the Loud siblings, Volcana and the Teen Titans, some of them, Jessie and Clyde, trying to help Lin Jr. after her rival, Betsy Davis, broke Lin Jr.'s leg with a powerful kick to the shin. She complains that the situation stinks, saying that she can't compete for 8 to 10 weeks. Lin Jr. also vows vengeance upon Betsy, leading Lincoln to ask why Betsy would break her leg. I think the answer's pretty obvious. She was being a brat, an undisciplined one. Lin Jr. says it is because her enemy was jealous. That works too. Starfire, out of character mind you, then says this: that girl needs to be taught a lesson in the respect and the friendship. Starfire is a superheroine. She can't be harming civilians over petty squabbles. Okay? She's a superheroine. She can't be doing that. My advice would be to inform the parents at this point, which I think that Lin Sr. and Rita are already doing, but I don't know. J.D., however, agrees that what Betsy did was unacceptable, saying that he can't argue with that. Farid agrees with her telling Lin Jr. that she's going after her. Lin Jr. is shocked at this, but I think she would be more happy. Raven asks Farid on why she would do that, and Farid goes into a little rant that Betsy needs to pay for harming her friend. You know what? I don't blame you, Farid, but Starfire and Raven shouldn't be okay with this. Period. End of story. And J.D. then says this stupid line: she may have henchmen with her, so we'll go with you. J.D., this is a kid, not a supervillain. Okay, maybe tone it down a little bit. Maybe say she has backup or something similar to that effect. Linka backs up J.D.'s statement and says that there'll be Lin's Avenging Angels, with J.D. saying that he likes the Avenging Angels part. He then dials up Betsy's number on the phone and Betsy answers it. J.D. introduces himself as the friend of the girl whose leg she broke. Betsy asks if it is to congratulate her on breaking Lin's leg. But J.D. says that's not the case because he and his friends want to fight. He also taunts Betsy about being a chicken and clucks like one. This enrages Betsy, who says that it is on and to name the place. J.D. says Royal Woods Park in 20 minutes and to bring some friends. J.D. rips off Optimus Prime's catchphrase, and 20 minutes later he is at the park with the Eds, Farids, the Loud Kids, Jessie, Clyde, the three superheroines, and Volcana, along with Lin Jr., who is in a wheelchair. That is unfair, okay? That is unfair. The three superheroines and Volcana, that is unfair. Okay, that is unfair. Betsy appears with 10 of her friends, delinquent friends, and J.D. is excited they came. Betsy claims that she and her friends will destroy him and his friends, but notices Lin Jr. in a wheelchair. She asks if Lin Jr. is going to fight. J.D. says that she isn't, but he and the rest are, and that the fight will be hard. Farid tells Luna, Lenny, Luann, Lisa, and the Eds to stay back with Lin where all the rest fight. Luna tells the rest of her friends to kick their asses, and J.D. tells Farid to take on Betsy, while the others will take on the rest. Fareed does what JD says, and Betsy tells her friends to attack. Okay, this is a very unfair fight, very unfair. 1. The DC superheroines should give JD shit for this and refuse to fight. 2. Betsy's friends would die at the hands of these superheroines. 3. Betsy would die too. And one more thing, why not have the DC superheroines stay back along with the Loud siblings that have superpowers? That way you're not putting civilians at risk. Let's see what the Teen Titans would do in this situation.
Come on, my friends, let's get revenge for Lynn Jr.'s broken leg.
Wait a minute. This reminds me of when I was Slade's protege. We aren't gonna harm that girl over there because she's a bully, okay? That's wrong. I'm a superheroine now. I need to not do that. Like Tara said, we need to be the more restrained. To be honest, she looks like a normal kid, and so do her buddies too. Ugh, but her leg got broken. James, I want to be redeemed, not seen as a monster. This behavior is exactly why I want to be redeemed in the first place, okay? If I do something like this, my reputation's gonna go down the fucking toilet. James, I understand where you're coming from, but beating up this kid is not the answer. We superheroines are better than this. This fight is really unfair because we're fighting against children. Okay? We're still kids ourselves, but even this is pathetic. Okay, you 5 superheroines can stay back while me, my girlfriend Marie, and the Loud kids with superpowers can fight these guys. You're not understanding the situation at all. Sorry about this, James. What is the meaning of this, Tara? Don't even think about it. Are you guys busy? Because we could totally reschedule. The fight is off. But maybe your parents should know about this? Please don't call them. I'll apologize. 1, you broke my leg. 2, you did it out of jealousy, so no. I'll never bully you again. Deal. Now scram. And as for you, James... Well, that is a little better, isn't it? No unnecessary fights with unpowered children. But no, obviously those 5 superheroines are mind controlled by JD, so that doesn't happen. The gang charges into battle with Betsy and her friends, starting the fight. This fight is split into 8 segments and are basically 3-second fights. I will not describe the fights, I will only describe the opponents and the aftermath of these fights. Okay, so let's start fight 1. Jessie Bannon versus Max. Jessie sends Max into the air, landing on the ground, making him unconscious. Jessie takes his knife as a trophy, making Lynn Jr. and Luna impressed. You know what? That is expected from a character like her, so I'll give that a pass. Luann makes a crappy joke, and Eddie laughs. The second fight, or fight 2, is Lori versus Megan, another one of Betsy's friends. Lori beats the shit out of Megan with her wind powers and knocks her out. Lori says that she feels alive, and then Lenny and Lynn Jr. are proud of her for doing that to Megan. The third fight, or fight 3, is with Linka and Lincoln fighting Tori and Corey, who are twins. And before that, they observe that they're twins, yada 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 yada. Linka and Lincoln beat the shit out of them with their hands and lightning powers, knocking both of them out. Luna cheers them on while Lynn Jr. is proud of what they have done. The fourth battle is with Lucy fighting Gaz, so it is Goff versus Goff. Lucy and Gaz vow to destroy each other, but in the middle of their fight, Lucy burns a hole in Gaz's clothing, seeing bruises, immediately stopping the attack. Lucy gasps and asks Gaz if she has been abused. This causes Gaz to break down, confessing about her horrible life with her abusive parents and friends and running away. Luna comes over and feels empathetic that it happened to the poor kid. Lisa comes over to make sure she's okay. Gaz explains further that she came from the bad side of Chicago, and Luann says it is a death sentence. Gaz also says that her parents were a nightmare because one was a raging drinker and the other was a drug addict. The reason she ran away and started a life of crime was because of that. Luann comes over and comforts Gaz, telling her that she's sorry that happened to her. Gaz introduces herself as Shannon Duluth, and Lynn says that she and her loved ones will do everything to help. Lynn also adds that it is unacceptable for her parents to do. Lucy asks Shannon if there is any family she could turn to. Shannon says that her dad killed them all and destroyed everything for her. The Eds comfort Shannon as she cries it all out, starting to feel better. Okay, that was a lot to take in. Let's move on to Fight 5. Fight 5 is with Lainey fighting Yuki, and Lainey quickly defeats this person with a whip of poison ivy and a kick to the face, knocking her out cold. Lainey says this, "How's that for girl power?" "Well, that is straight up assault." Lynn Jr., like before, is proud of her sister for attacking a defenseless child. In the sixth battle, Lana and Lola fight three boys that look like the Rowdy Rough Boys and pummel them with ice and fire powers until they are knocked out. Jesus, they didn't even get to fight back in that one. In the seventh battle, J.D. is fighting a kid named Tone and curb stomps him in less than 3 seconds. Then J.D. says this, "That's for me, just for making me mad." Oh J.D., your vigilantism doesn't cease to amaze me. The eighth and final battle is Varee fighting Betsy because Lynn Jr. has a broken leg. Varee quickly sends her into the ground with a large thud. She then says, "That must have hurt." "No shit, Sherlock. Be lucky that Betsy didn't die on contact." Anyway, all of a sudden, a massive earthquake rattles the park, causing JD to say that it is an earthquake. He then checks his phone to see that the epicenter is right above Lynn, measuring about 9.5. JD asks Tara if she caused the earthquake, but Tara confirms that she didn't do anything. JD stupidly thinks that it must be someone else. Dude, obviously seismic activity can be involved. Get out of there. Fortunately, the source reveals itself to be a tornado of dust, dirt, and rocks. It swirls around Lynn Jr. with Lainey saying it is another elemental choosing. "Oh great, another one. Just what we need." However, when the tornado dies down, Lynn is healed up. Lynn says she feels weird but realizes something. She then holds out her hand, causing a pillar of rock to form out of the ground. JD tells Lynn she has earth powers, and Lynn takes this opportunity to harm her own rival, Betsy, by throwing rocks at her, knocking her out. JD proudly claims that they won, as he and his friends start cheering as the cops arrive. Betsy and her friends, minus Shannon, are arrested because of plot armor, I guess. Officer Paul, one of the officers there, tells the kids good job for defeating this gang, but would really warn them to not do it again. JD, however, confesses to fighting them because of Betsy breaking Lynn's leg, and adding she should be getting the maximum penalty allowed. What? No! Officer Paul, probably shocked at this, agrees with JD and asks if the kids are okay. JD tells him that he and his friends are fine and to give Betsy/her friends the punishment they deserve. Officer Paul, I think, is pretending to agree, and JD confesses to starting the fight, adding that he and his friends became Lynn's avenging angels. He also tells Paul that the training paid off, and Paul pretends to actually say that he'll file charges against Betsy. At this point, I would just leave. Betsy swears revenge on JD and his friends, but JD brings out his hand and imitates Arnold Schwarzenegger by saying, "Talk to the hand." The cops then drive off, presumably to file charges against J.D. and his group. Back at the Loud House, J.D. explains everything that went down, but instead of Lynn Sr./Rita teaching them fight or telling everyone off, Lynn Sr. acts as if they took down the Black Daffodil Gang. J.D. gets confused while Varee says that the gang sounds evil. Rita explains that they caused problems for over half a decade and terrorized Detroit. So Detroit is near Royal Woods? Makes sense. J.D. and Varee say that they didn't know, which is questionable, because J.D. himself knows specific details about other things. Jessie and Lynn had no idea that Betsy was part of such a vicious gang. J.D. tells that none of them did, but he is glad that they took him off the streets, ending their terror. Tara asks about how Lynn got her powers, and J.D. brings out his stupid legends book. He says that Lynn was blessed by Gamatex, the goddess of volcanoes and earthquakes in the Caribbean Tinos tribe. These powers are given once every 100 years to anyone who is worthy. They can form features of the earth and possess winged flight, but this can happen 2 days after the worthy has been injured. How many of these deities give people winged flight? This is not necessary. Anyway, Varee points out that Lynn Jr. got injured 2 days ago, with Lynn agreeing. Tara says it is amazing. Raven deduces due to the legends, that is how some of the Loud kids got their powers. Lori says that it literally surprised the family because Lainey was the first. Volcana tells the family they have been blessed, while J.D. says that Earth is a destructive force. Lynn Jr. agrees and asks Tara to help her learn her powers. Tara obviously tells her yes, as Robin tells everyone else that when he and the Teen Titans met her, she can barely control her powers. Tara says that she had no idea, while Robin says it is okay and Beast Boy says he was shocked himself. All of a sudden, there is a knock at the door, and J.D. answers it. They find a police chief on the porch. J.D. asks what he and his friends could do for him, but the chief tells him that the mayor has called him and everyone in the household for a special ceremony at Detroit City Hall instead of Royal Woods. At Detroit City Hall, the mayor gives everyone from the Loud residents, except Lynn Sr. and Rita, keys to the city for defeating Betsy Davis and her friends of the Black Daffodil Gang. J.D. thanks the mayor and says it is a great honor, also adding that he and his friends didn't know about the gang. The mayor says it happens most of the time. Betsy gets 25 years in prison for assault, battery, and first-class conspiracy, and her friends, excluding Shannon, get 5 consecutive sentences of life in prison for gang-related activities. Shannon's parents get 4 consecutive life terms, plus 850 years for child abuse, drug possession, and more. Shannon gets adopted into the Loud House, which is squeezing the family budget of that house even more. That is how the chapter ends. In his notes, J.D. says that he added a dangerous gang not because of planning, but because of it being the first idea. He hopes that Shannon's past doesn't sadden anyone. Too late for that guy. He also wanted to add action to the chapter. Wow, this chapter really sucked. My thoughts are very conflicted right now. On the one hand, the characters have a point for going after someone, but on the other, they overreacted just like in chapter 21. Okay, this chapter is trash. I wouldn't recommend reading this one if you are sensitive to the topic of abuse or anything like that. I would just read another chapter or read a better fanfic. JD, when you have topics like this, you have to treat them with the care and respect that they deserve. Okay, this is asinine. Okay? This is asinine. Be careful in the future. This chapter, or in the original version, is a pilot for a spin-off that didn't last very long. I'm going to make this a short entry because this chapter is unbelievably long. This is a what-if within a what-if, basically. JD is in that chapter from beginning to end. The plot is that Bobby and Ronnie Ann move away because of Maria finding a different job. Nothing special, but it introduces some elements for the show like the bodega. There are Russian and Indian versions of JD and Varee respectively. The Casa Grandes are basically the same as the Louds, but more screamy. The parrot for this chapter is annoying. Believe me, it is annoying as hell to listen to. Ronnie Ann gets overwhelmed due to the change, I guess. Lori in the chapter overreacts a lot until she has to face reality. Cats are the villain of the episode and chapter, but Faris saves the day by tricking the cats into following a fish smell, and the twist at the end is that the chapter was a simulation all along, which is going to lead us into the next arc of the fanfiction, the simulator arc. But first, we have to go and cover the final 2 chapters of this video. And my god, we get the return of a long-running nemesis. Fool Me Twice is the 9th episode of the 3rd season, and we jumped ahead once again. It revolves around Luann yet again being a menace to her family during one day of the year. This time, however, there seems to be a different writer at the helm, so I'm going to be a little less harsh with this than originally intended. But before we go into the chapter, I was going to originally sing a song about Psycho Luann, but unfortunately, since the topic of abuse came up in one of the previous chapters, I can't do it without it seeming very, very disrespectful. So instead, we will get right into the chapter. So unfortunately, we got Psycho Luann again. This is not going to be fun to summarize, is it? The chapter begins one day before April Fool's, and this leads to the Loud family and their friends, except Shannon, having to meet in secrecy so that Psycho Luann can't hear them. When Lincoln, in disguise, reaches the rendezvous point, he makes a bird call, getting his family's and friends' attention. And after a safety phrase is answered correctly, the family and friends take off their disguises. Lynn Sr. Louise acts as if Psycho Luann followed, but Lincoln says no, and adds that Clyde is spying on her at the Sunset Canyon retirement home. It then cuts to Clyde, disguised as an elder at the retirement home. Back at the rendezvous spot, Lynn Sr., still relieved, asks as if anyone has a plan to stop Psycho Luann. Lori says that Bobby said that they can hide in the basement of the bodega, with her also adding that she and the others would have to watch for rat traps and asbestos. After they moved the Casa Grande's apartment building to Royal Woods, setting everything up. Okay, how do you move an apartment building like that? Wouldn't there be problems with the neighbors or something? There's a lot of implications here. Rita is unimpressed with Lori's idea, with J.D. adding that asbestos can destroy your health by being poisonous. Fact. Eddie says that he had no idea that Psycho Luann's pranks were that deadly, with Faris saying it is no picnic. Eddie, your show is full of chaos. Don't be surprised at this. Lincoln tells his family and friends that there's an island near Guam that they could get to by submarine. But Lynn Jr. and Linka tell him they don't have passports, while J.D. says that Guam is too far away, along with worrying about typhoons. Okay, that's a valid fact. Lisa brings up an idea of building a ship to get to Europa, but Faris says it is too risky. Double D and Ed say that going to Europa sounds cool though. Lana offers an alternative of digging a system of tunnels under the house. Woody says that would be cool, but he is not a digger. I think also gravity would pull the house down below ground. Lenny thinks of the brilliant idea to act Psycho Luann really nicely, and Jessie shuts that down. Thank God, because that idea will fail. Anyway, Laney comes up with a good idea about pranking Psycho Luann back, but Lori says that Psycho Luann vowed revenge after picking herself up. JD remembers this, but Laney starts planning. And then Lynn Sr. stops her in her tracks, saying that nothing can stop Psycho Luann, adding that it is perhaps hopeless. Dude, you, JD, Faris, and the family stopped her before, so I don't see the problem, okay? She could easily be defeated. Lily tells Lynn Sr. that it isn't hopeless as long as the family and friends work together. A movie producer then appears telling everyone to move out of the way because the crew and him are shooting a movie. JD apologizes and the family and friends move out of the way, except Lola, who poses for the camera. The producer tells Lola to move out of the way because they are filming a stunt. Lola scoffs and walks away while telling them it is their loss. And nothing of value was lost. The director says, "Action," starting the dangerous stunt. It is the typical high-speed chase, but at the end the stunt double crash lands to the ground, with safety of course, as the director says cut. The stunt double recovers from the crash and removes his helmet, revealing his appearance is similar to Lynn Sr. Lynn remarks that the guy can take a beating, while Lenny says that he looks like her father. Lynn Sr. says that it is a shame he can't hire the stunt double to take Psycho Luann's pranks for him. Everyone stares at Lynn Sr. and he responds that he wasn't being serious. J.D. says it is not a bad idea, with Lincoln and Farie agreeing. Laney brings up a point about the stunt doubles being hurt, but Lincoln tells Laney it will be fine and says to her that she isn't doing a good job, adding that the plan is their only shot. J.D. agrees to this awful plan. Maybe don't involve strangers in your plan because you could get sued, dumbasses. To no avail, everyone else agrees to the plan. In a room not far from the rendezvous point, Lenny is looking at the family, saying that the doubles look like the family. Rita points out that the doubles are on the other side of the room, and Lenny looks at the doubles, saying they're good too. J.D. says that looking at the doubles is like looking in a mirror, and Lynn Sr. asks how much they are going to cost him. Lynn Sr.'s stunt double hands him the bill, and Lynn Sr. gasps at the unknown amount in dollars. J.D. presumably grabs the bill and looks at the bill, saying it is considered small pocket change to him. One question, why don't you pay it then? Since you are a millionaire, James, that way your friends and family will respect you more. But no, he does not pay for it and leaves it to Lynn Sr. to pick up the bill. Lincoln and Linka ask why their doubles are old, and Lynn Sr.'s stunt double says he did the best he could. Lincoln's stunt double says he came out of retirement for this gig and adds that he sits around in his underwear. Lincoln retracts his former statement and says that the stunt double is perfect. Farie and Jessie agree with Lincoln, and then Lynn Sr. says that they have to work quickly on the whole mimicking them thing with the stunt doubles. Immediately, Lynn Sr. tells everyone that Psycho Luann comes home at 5, and everyone gets to work back at the Loud House. The Loud family teaches the stunt doubles how to act and what to do, and after that, Lynn Sr. tells them the plan, which is at midnight, to sneak out of the house and switch them out with the stunt doubles. The Eds, J.D., Farie, Woody, and Jessie will be watching from the Knudson estate in the castle tower. They do so at midnight, and Lynn Sr. tells the stunt doubles good luck. Lynn Sr.'s stunt double tells him not to worry. The chapter then cuts to the morning inside the garage with the Louds peeking out. Lynn Sr. is mentioned making pancakes. Lily is mentioned sitting on the floor, and Lisa is mentioned looking over a giant monitor. She then tells the family to gather around, who walk up to the monitor. Lisa says to her family that the cameras she installed last year can keep eyes on the stunt doubles. This makes the other Louds look at her with suspicion, and Lisa says she meant to say last night. Lisa notices that Lana and Lola's stunt doubles are on the move and hits a button called Cam 8, making the monitor screen bigger, showing said stunt doubles. Lana and Lola get ready for impact, but when their stunt doubles exit their room, nothing happens. Lana and Lola get confused at this, but Lisa spots that Lincoln's stunt double is now on the move very slowly. Lisa switches the monitor screen to show Lincoln's room with Lincoln's stunt double accidentally injuring himself. Lincoln acts as if he got injured from Psycho Luann's pranks, but Rita says it is unrelated. Luna gets immediately suspicious and asks why the stunt doubles aren't getting pranked. Lucy then asks why they are leaving the house, and J.D. through a walkie-talkie tells Lynn Sr. that something isn't right. On the monitor, the stunt doubles are seen leaving the house and the family gasp, realizing something. They rush to the garage door and peek out the window, seeing the stunt doubles go in different directions. Lynn Sr. obviously gets pissed at this, saying that he paid good money for them to get pranked. Rita then realizes that perhaps Psycho Luann was to not prank anyone. Lincoln asks why that is the case, and Rita explains that the whole family would go crazy trying to protect themselves and let them chase their own tails. Lori adds that Rita is right and that she's good. The family laughs, realizing it was a waste of time, with Lynn Sr. saying that he burnt through the family savings to pay the stunt doubles, and adds that at least April Fool's is over. Psycho Luann then speaks off screen that April Fool's is just beginning. This leads the Loud family to turn around and scream in horror when they see Psycho Luann on the monitor smiling a devilish grin. She then explains that she had a whole different plan, but seeing at the doubles the family found, she decided to do something worse. Psycho Luann tells the family to stay tuned because of the rest of the day being doubly special, which is one of the better jokes she has come up with, and the monitor then shuts off. Everyone in the garage panics because of how bad Psycho Luann is and try to get out, but to no avail. Lloyd then asks where the remote is, but Lenny, while peeking out of the garage window, says that Psycho Luann does. The family rushes to the garage door, looking outside the windows to see that the comedian sibling has the garage door remote. Psycho Luann, sitting down in a jester chair, turns around to reveal Cliff sitting on her lap. Psycho Luann then brags that she put cameras everywhere to enjoy the show. Now in the original episode, Psycho Luann's plan was to ruin her family's lives and reputations because it is April Fools. The family's plan is to pretend that they are moving, and Psycho Luann does get punished by having her pranking shit sent away somewhere. But this only happens after the reputations are ruined that did barely anything. In this alternate version, however, Psycho Luann's chair gets stuck, thus being embarrassed. Then Lenny's stunt double hits Psycho Luann with a pie to the face. J.D. at his mansion's tower says that there is some action at the Loud House. Eddie and Varee say that Lenny got Psycho Luann good, thus spoiling the plot twist. Ed stupidly asks what is going to happen, and Woody says, "Let's watch and see." Lynn Sr. gets confused on what the stunt double is doing, and Psycho Luann is shocked that the stunt double refused to go over to Joey's, Laney's boyfriend's house. She gets off the chair only to slip on a banana peel and go down the driveway, just as a truck of trampolines passes by. The psychotic little menace bounces off one and lands by the front door. Varee says that the trampoline truck is unusual, with Jessie agreeing. J.D. adds it was convenient for Psycho Luann. Psycho Luann growls and stands up, ranting at the stunt double that she should have listened to her, despite Lynn Sr. paying her. Unfortunately for her, she gets dragged into the house by a rope and gets hit by everything under the sun. The family looks at the monitor and laughs at Psycho Luann's misery. Honestly, this was going to happen at some point in time. We just did not know when. I don't blame the family for the reaction. It is justified. Psycho Luann lands back on the jester chair, looking like a bruised tomato. The stunt double for Laney grabs the garage remote and presses a button, opening the garage door. The Loud family walks out, cheering, while J.D., Varee, Woody, Jessie, and the Eds walk onto the Loud property, cheering. J.D. says that was awesome, while Varee says that Psycho Luann got a taste of her own medicine. Lincoln says that he can't believe that the double of Laney is a pranking genius, and Jessie agrees. Lynn Sr. asks how he and the family could thank her, but the stunt double of Laney responds with, "No thanks needed, Dad." Lynn Sr. gets confused and tells her that she could stop pretending. The stunt double reveals herself to be the actual Laney by wiping off her freckles with a tissue and saying, "Who's pretending?" This action causes the family and friends to gasp. The siblings get confused and Laney passes the tissue to her double, wiping off the face paint, revealing the freckles. Lola asks about how Laney pulled it off and adds that she was supposed to switch with her double. J.D. says that he wonders too about how Laney pulled it off. Laney says that it was simple and uses a flashback to explain how she did it. Basically, Laney's double gave the real Laney a heads up about Psycho Luann's true plan and decided to prank the psychotic menace back 1,000-fold by setting up traps. The flashback ends and Laney gloats about giving her psycho sister a taste of her own medicine. She then puts a little sting in her words by saying, "How does it feel, Luann, to be painfully messed with and humiliated for amusement? Not good, huh?" Her family and her friends are amazed instead of realizing Lenny perhaps went a little too far. J.D. and Marie tell Lainey that she did a good job, and Double D agrees, adding that Lainey used reverse psychology just like he and the other Eds did with the Cankers. Lainey tells Double D that's correct, and the Eds, J.D. and Woody, compliment her on the pranking. Psycho Luann admits that Lainey has gotten good and realizes that she didn't know that Lainey had it in her. Lainey tells Psycho Luann that her pranks are dangerous and harmful to the family and that she did this to show the little psycho that actions have consequences. Lainey also wants to make sure these types of pranks don't happen again. Everyone agrees, and JD adds that those types of pranks are downright evil. Look in the mirror, JD. Eddie, however, stays together with Luann, despite pranking her entire family. Luann laughs and promises to tone down the pranking next year. Lily checks her phone and discovers that the calendar was changed for the second time. Everyone checks their phones to see it is August, and JD says that it is just like the time with the motel death trap. Linka asks about the doubles, but Lainey says that the doubles are taking places for the Louds today upon redirecting them. Lainey also tells Luann that she hopes that she learned her lesson, and Lynn Sr. and Rita ban her from pranking and are on with grounding her for 2 months. Luann says, "Aw man," like she is Swiper. JD says to Luann that he hopes that she learned her lesson. Jessie and Marie agree with JD, and he tells Luann to not even think about crossing her fingers behind her back. JD also makes a finger sign that says, "I'm watching you." The overpowered Gary Stu asks where Shannon is, and Luann says that she spared her because of the Black Daffodil situation. Luna says to Luann that it is noble of her, and Luann says thanks. JD tells her again that he is watching her. Woody then laughs, ending the chapter. In the notes, JD says that Kinghammer helped him with the twist in the second half, and adds something about Sun Tzu. Okay, what do I think about this chapter? This chapter is not that creative and has a plot twist that can work if no one spoils it. I guess the alternate second half is okay, and it is really cathartic to see Psycho Luann getting what she deserves. I'm glad that Shannon was not added in this chapter, because it would have been very tasteless and disrespectful to victims of abuse. Also, it wouldn't have been that healthy for her to get involved anyway. Long story short, this is the Luann needs to get a therapist chapter. Seriously, Luann needs to get one. And maybe after a couple sessions, she would be somewhat normal. Oh, what am I kidding? This is Loud House Revamped. Of course that won't happen. Chapter 40, The Light Shines Forth, is the aftermath of Fool Me Twice, and it is as ridiculous as it sounds. So without further ado, let's get into the final chapter for this video. The chapter begins at the Loud House with Lainey, Lincoln, Linka, Lily, Luann, Shannon, Jessie, Woody, 5 of the Teen Titans, JD, and Marie watching TV or reading books. Lainey talks about it being peaceful outside with Volcana agreeing. JD adds that he hopes it stays that way after the bullshit that Luann put his friends through. Luann gets a massive headache and JD asks what's wrong. Luann responds by saying she doesn't know and adds that her head feels like it is going to explode. JD senses something and gasps, saying that a dark force is coming from Luann. Eddie asks what it is, and JD tells Eddie he can't make it out. Raven asks if it is a demon, but Marie says she can sense the darkness is not a demon, telling her it is something else. I think Raven should know that already, but okay. Linka agrees with Marie on this, and then a pitch black aura comes out of Luann, turning into a blob. It then morphs into another Luann with eyes that are red like blood. Great, another Luann. Just what we need. JD asks who she is, despite it being obvious who she is. This dark version of Luann introduces herself as Dark Luann, saying she is the source of the turmoil that Luann causes every April Fools. No, that is not how a split personality works. It is part of you until you die and become worm food. Lincoln gets angry at this because he had been put through hell by this influence. Lainey gets confused, despite her being a sibling in the Loud House. Shannon is dumbfounded because she is a new addition, so I don't blame her. Woody has no idea because he lives in the treehouse. J.D. says that he has seen this before on Split 2016, and says that the movie was freaky. What? I don't know what you're talking about. Dark Luann explains she was created back in 6th grade when Luann was being bullied. This makes everyone gasp in shock, and Viri asks if that is true. Dark Luann says that the bully made fun of her because of the braces, resulting in her creation. This would lead Luann into comedy, making crappy jokes. But this dark reflection always came back on April Fools to cause dangerous pranks. Okay, that is bullshit. She changed the calendar of her own free will, so Luann is not innocent here. Lainey asks, you would take control of Luann and do all those pranks? Well, duh, that's pretty obvious. J.D. says that's insane, and Woody says she's a monster. Eddie tells the dark reflection that enough is enough and lunges at it. He wrestles the dark reflection, putting a joy buzzer to its head, zapping it. Eddie then takes the time to make a crappy joke during an action scene, with everyone laughing and J.D. saying it's a good joke. The dark reflection then retaliates by throwing a cherry pie at Eddie, who ducks and J.D. gets hit in the face by it instead. J.D. slurps the pie off and says it is his favorite flavor. Eddie then throws a whoopee cushion, exploding in Dark Luann's face, covering it in garbage. Eddie makes a stupid joke, making everyone in the room laugh, with Viri saying it is a good one. We had a joke, like 3 seconds ago. It's getting old. Dark Luann then suddenly brings out a box and opens it, causing a spring-loaded metal boxing glove to spring out. J.D. tells everyone in the room to duck, and they all duck, making the glove punch a hole in the wall. This gets the rest of the Loud kids, the Eds, the Loud parents, the rest of the Teen Titans, Ronnie Ann, and the Russian and Indian version's attention, making them come to the living room. Lori asks what is going on, and Luna gets shocked, asking if that is a second Luann. J.D. and Viri get everyone else up to speed, and Starfire explains that Dark Luann is fighting Eddie right now. Lynn Sr. and Rita asks why this wasn't brought up to them, but J.D. says that they'll figure it out later. Luann all of a sudden falls to the floor and starts glowing in a faint rainbow light as she starts opening her eyes. She then says that she has to save Eddie. Eddie and the dark reflection of his girlfriend are still fighting, but Eddie seems to be faring well. J.D. says that the training is really paying off. Can we get a flashback of this? No? Okay. Then the fight turns in Dark Luann's favor, with Eddie being pinned to the wall. Dark Luann says to Eddie that he fared well, but Luann taps her on the shoulder, causing her to turn around. The dark reflection then sees Luann in rainbow light, who squirts hot sauce into her eyes. It then lets Eddie go as it is blinded. Luann tells her reflection that no one hurts her friends and family, especially Eddie. J.D. then points out that Luann is glowing in rainbow light. Lynn Jr. asks Lisa if this is one of her experiments, but Lisa tells her it is not the case. J.D. says it is something else, with Woody telling everyone to look. Luann then makes a construct of a pterodactyl of pure light, squawking, and taking the dark reflection outside. Luann shoots at the dark reflection with a beam of blue light that burns it. The construct then drops Dark Luann from a huge height. Luann grows yellow wings and flies into the air, punching her dark reflection in the mouth, knocking some of its teeth out. Luann then shoots a green beam, going through the dark reflection's left leg, burning it off. The dark reflection then hits the ground with a tremendous thud, instantly killing it, exploding into red particles of shining glitter. Wait a minute, shouldn't that kill the regular Luann too? Luann lands on the ground as Eddie went outside for her. Luann and Eddie end up kissing after the defeat of Dark Luann. Back in the living room, everyone else is talking to Luann, with J.D. and Viri telling her she did good. Viri tells Luann that she has light powers, and agrees, saying that she doesn't know how it happened, but it did. J.D. pulls out the stupid Legends book yet again, and says that her light powers come from the goddess of the sun, Solus, and Celtic myth. JD adds that these powers can only be activated when someone confronts their dark side persona. He also says to Luann that she has cosmic light control, which is making constructs, using light magic, and having winged flight. Luann says that is incredible, with Jessie saying that she didn't know powers like that existed. And Lincoln adds that he didn't know either. No. It isn't cool because she has powers now, which will give her the ability to do more pranks that can be worse. I am talking about making a bear out of light magic that chases people. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but knowing this fanfic, I wouldn't be shocked if it was in there. Back to the chapter. Raven brings up the fact that Luann's bullying in 6th grade horrifies the first group. Lynn Sr. asks Luann why she didn't tell him or Rita. Luann says it was because of being too afraid, but Woody and JD pressure her to tell the truth. What it comes down to is a bully named Abigail Sanchez is responsible for Luann's path in comedy and venting on April Fools. Eddie, of course, comforts Luann and tells her he's sorry about not knowing anything of the bullying back then. Cole adds that Luann had been through rough times, while Volcana says the bullying is harsh. Luna tells everyone that she's going to deafen her bully so badly she will need to go to a clinic for the criminally deaf, with Lynn to save seconds for her. Lincoln becomes reasonable for once and says that they can't resort to such acts, with Lainey agreeing and adding that Lynn Sr. and Rita have to decide. Where was this logic in Chapter 21? Where was it in Chapter 30? In fact, where has it been this whole time? I suppose it is in the garbage somewhere, slowly rotting. Lincoln saying this now is not helping, but confirming that the characters may have some regret for what they did to people. Rita tells everyone else that Lincoln and Lainey are right, but they can't let Abigail get away with it. Okay, this needs to be addressed and talked to by the parents of the bully. Faria and Woody agree, with the latter saying that violence is not the answer. Correction, it is almost always not the answer because of extreme situations. The Teen Titans and JD say that they'll support her and that she's funny. Debatable. Luann cries and tells everyone that she hurt her family over the years with pranks, including her dad. Lainey says to Luann that it wasn't her, but her dark side. Lily tells Luann that her bully is responsible for the dark side manifesting, and she is to blame. Woody and Jessie agree with Luann, saying that they're right. She then tells Eddie how brave and heroic he was. Eddie tells Luann he would do anything for her, leading to the both of them kissing again. Everyone then says, "Aw," because Luann and Eddie are a couple. Still, Lynn Sr. calls Abigail's house, revealing everything that happened to her parents. Parents, without asking their daughter or getting another side of the story, call the police and have her arrested. The police charge Abigail with assault and battery. Okay, that doesn't make sense because of statute of limitations. Luann testifies against her in court and is forced to serve 18 months in prison, along with completing 3,000 hours of community service and paying Luann $500,000 in restitution. Sounds about right for bullying. At dinner the next week, Luann thanks everyone for helping her, and JD says that it is no problem. Lainey asks Luann how the powers feel, and Luann says it feels great while making it a crappy joke. Everyone laughs, and JD steals a quote from Spider-Man saying great power comes with great responsibility. Luann says she knows, and JD offers to give some books on her powers. Luann thanks him, and after dinner, everyone goes into the living room to watch the Dreamboat, ending the chapter. What did I think of this chapter overall? This so-called aftermath sucks hard because I'm not only going over the top, but excusing the shit Luann has done over the course of the 3 April Fool's chapters. Come on, Darkseid, really? What am I watching, Star Wars? At least with Star Wars it makes more sense, but in Loud House, no. The Dark Luann fight was one-sided and very cliché. Like really, Luann getting light powers? I would expect her getting something chaos related or something. Anyway, I noticed that JD himself says in the notes that he borrows elements from other Loud House fanfics for Luann's powers and the bullying story. The Teen Titans didn't do even that much in this chapter. which is surprising because they're superheroes. They fight supernatural threats. I'm expecting something like that. I guess J.D. just wanted Eddie to use his Toon Force or something. And that is chapters 31 through 40 summarized and reviewed. For my next video, I will be posting in my community tab about which video I'm going to do next. So, this is Lord Phantom, and I'll see you guys next time.